Welcome to today's episode. We have an exciting guest. His name is Joe Morris, and he's the co-founder of Pathfinder Solutions. The company's mission is to empower people to heal and grow by building systems that listen, adapt, and put human dignity at the center of care. Their goal is to reduce barriers, lighten administrative burdens, and help recovery focused teams to do what they do best, support healing. So for those of you who are just joining the podcast, we are IQ Consulting, and we specialize in helping any business scale their revenue over 12 months. So if you want to learn how to take your business to the next level, make sure to stick around. And if you are interested in a free growth consultation, just drop the word growth into the DMs. So Joe, today we're going to explore your business model, where you are today, where you want to go, and what's blocking you. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds great.
Awesome. Thank you. So the first thing I want to ask you, Joe, is how did your company start? And what was the initial problem that you set out to solve?
Yeah, it's a great question. So initially, my experience, I'm a person in long-term recovery. I moved to Minnesota to get sober, to find recovery, to kind of reinvent myself and to start a new life. During that process, I met a very influential man that essentially took me under his wing. His family has a long-standing legacy in our community. His father was a United States Senator that passed away in a plane crash. And during my early years in recovery, he was offering jobs to people like me that were wanting to rebuild their life. I eventually started working for him, doing some handyman work around his apartments and affordable housing units, which was great. And I came to him with an idea about creating women's sober housing, specifically safe and supportive housing for women in our community. We built a company called Safe Haven Sober Living, which housed around 90 residents that essentially was a safe place for them to live and start their recovery journey, much like mine. And through that process, we learned that we really wanted to connect better with people.
Mm-hmm.
We had a lot of residents asking for help in different types of ways. We thought initially it was, how do help me find a job? How do I find meetings, self-care mechanisms? But really it was around finding resources that fit them and truly met them where they are. And so we set out on this path and said, hey, let's create an app, right? To really better serve and to connect people with the resources that are available to them in their community. And since it's been roughly 6 years, our product has matured into what I would consider a full ecosystem of technology or tools. But really at the center of Pathfinder is the patient, the client, right? The human that's receiving services. And so as you could imagine, COVID happened. Some things changed in our model. It accelerated our growth because there was more of a need for this, let's call it digital or technology sort of interaction between the care provider and the individual. And so we built a patient engagement application to really help organizations not only connect with their individuals, but to really see how they were doing outside of the four walls, I like to say. So that's how the platform came about. Since then, it has really matured into something different, which has been fascinating to be a part of. I can't take any credit for it because I'm not the smart one of the group. I have some cool ideas.
You're the heart behind it, so you count for a lot.
I always like to say I'm blessed to have such an amazing team that I get to work with every day. And that we really challenge each other and we really listen to each other. And ideally, for us, the client, the person is at the center of every one of our conversations. How is this going to impact the individual, the community, right? From a very person-centered approach.
No, that's impressive. And what would you say was the biggest driver for you past year?
I think within the past year, as we've seen, well, one of the things, it's very unfortunate, right? And we see it all the time. Addiction and mental health, there's a lot of statistics and they don't always look great. I think every one of us that's a part of Pathfinder from a company perspective, but also the other people we collaborate with, this is something that is very personal to a lot of people. Whether you have a family member, a loved one, a person that struggles with mental health or addiction, I think we are a very passion-filled group that wants to create change, but also we understand that the industry is shifting and technology plays a role, AI plays a role. Things are constantly moving. And so for us, really one of the main drivers is we don't like seeing all of the negative statistics,
Mm.
overdose deaths, other things along those lines. Like we want to be a part of the solution today.
That's awesome. It's just incredible, right? So what would you say that's working well right now in terms of growth and operations? And if you could
Yeah.
press a button and remove one operational bottleneck, what would that be?
Oof, that's a tough question. In terms of our operational growth, I think what we have experienced at Pathfinder is really kind of centered around how are we meeting the organizational needs with the technology,
Mm-hmm.
right? Making it stronger, making it faster because the goal is to allow them to do what they do best and that's help people,
Mm-hmm.
right? We just want to provide the cover or the infrastructure that allows them to help more people in the way that they know how to do it because we're not the professionals doing the work. We just want to be a lever or a driver or a vehicle, right? That allows them to understand their clients needs better, maybe get a little bit different type of information that they would normally get versus a one-on-one or a group setting. So for us, it's I don't know if it's about necessarily removing obstacles. I think removing obstacles in this space is more it's brutal to talk about, but reimbursement organizations are somewhat cash strapped, right? Like how do you work within the confines of the industry as it's always shifting? Because again, maybe like the podcast world, you have big podcasts, you have medium podcasts, and you have small
Mm-hmm.
podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we understand that we want to work with everybody. And so, really trying to meet the needs of the organization that best fits them
Mm-hmm.
and what they do, and kind of walking alongside. So, I don't know if that necessarily answers your question, but it's not about removing barriers for us. It's about really working within the confines of what they do.
How are you reaching out to all these different businesses? What are your tools for lead generations, for example?
Yeah, I mean, we use everything from HubSpot as our CRM, different social media avenues, of
Mm-hmm.
course, different PR tactics, right, to try to gain momentum in different markets. Some of the stuff now that we're really heavily leaning on is our data studies and some of our government funded projects that we've done specifically with native communities and things along those lines, right? And trying to create a little bit of differentiation, if that makes sense. I mean, the normal traditional channels work, but again, as we get advertisements for all sorts of things all the
Mm-hmm.
time, right? And so what we really try to lean in on, because we're a small but agile
How
company.
how many employees do
Um,
you have?
so I think right now we're at about 20. A lot of folks are on the development side because unbeknownst to me as not being the tech guy, it's not easy to build and maintain a
Mm-hmm.
platform and to do it really well, especially when you're dealing with people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that I always come back to is this: we're dealing with people's lives here, and so yeah, I mean it's been an evolution, but I think for us we're getting a lot of validation in the market, which has been awesome. And we work specifically in Minnesota, but we have one of our great customers down here in Arizona,
Mm.
and so we've been creating a lot of momentum here
Oh,
as
that's
well,
great.
which is very fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. How are you looking to scale? What are the opportunities for you to do that this year?
I think for us as we start to kind of chart our next, let's say our next course,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think the opportunities in front of us are really centered around maybe payer activity. I think as you see out in the world now with all of the things that we're reading in the news and whether it's the fraud and the abuse, right?
Wow.
Medicaid dollars, public spend, right? What I think there's a unique opportunity for technology in the space to create some sort of, let's call it cost saving measures,
Mm-hmm.
utilization of technology plus human service interaction. And how are you blending those two to create maybe better signals or indicators to better serve the
Mm-hmm.
individuals while creating more efficiency and effectiveness for the organization that's doing the work? Because again, the work that they're doing is not easy.
No, it's not.
And yeah, and it's kind of always evolving. And so I think there's a unique opportunity. We talk about it and it's been around for a long time, but value based care
Mm-hmm.
is always kind of a hot button topic for every
Mm-hmm.
state. So I think there's opportunities there. We're looking at kind of all ends of the spectrum from a growth perspective right now in the space. And so I don't want to say we definitely have our course chartered, but we're pretty close and we have a pretty good idea of where we're going to go.
Great. And since we're talking about AI, right? The introduction of AI, how much of your work is AI based?
Yeah, I mean, right now, so on the development side, our engineers obviously use it to write code and to do all the other things that they're doing. I think for us, what we're really looking at is how are we going to utilize it on the qualitative side, but also on the quantitative side,
Mm-hmm.
of course, right? How are we going to use it and implement it in our EMR technology and revenue cycle management technology? The long story short, the development side uses it on a regular basis,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, Enhance productivity. I think on the human centered side of it, we're careful
Mm-hmm.
about how it's being utilized, what are the different things that we're trying to do with it, and we talk to a lot of people about the different types of AI that are out there. And so for us, we're at a very interesting moment in time in our company because we're having to make decisions on how we're going to implement it and how we're going to utilize it on the patient side of
Yes,
things.
exactly.
And so I don't want to give too much away. We're working with some really cool groups on the machine learning side. But again, we always come back to how is this going to affect the client or the patient
Mm-hmm.
in a very positive
Mm-hmm.
manner as opposed to just gathering data, right? And getting data. I think that's something that we are always talking about as a leadership group, making sure that we choose the right tool,
Mm-hmm.
the right group to really derive good outcomes, but really good, strong patient interaction.
Yeah, that it's important to augment the experience and not take away person by introducing an AI AI face.
Yeah.
When the population that you're targeting, especially, is a lot more sensitive to that. They really care about the human aspect, right? So you
Mm,
definitely want
yeah.
to introduce AI tools that are augmenting the experience rather than replacing it.
Yes. And if we can do things to enhance on the clinical side, to enhance the experience that clinicians and the folks that are doing the work, amazing, right? But again, it all comes back to how is this ultimately going to affect the clients on the other end?
Yeah.
And will it make their experience better? Will it make their recovery journey better? How are we utilizing those tools to enhance that aspect of our
Yeah, and
platform?
I imagine that when you're running a session and you need to get reimbursed for all the costs that's involved, right? So you want to
Mhm.
make sure that HIPAA compliance is followed, but at the same time, you also need to have the script behind it so that you can prove that hey, you actually had a session, a real session with your customer, right? And so that your
Absolutely.
claims don't get denied. So how do you balance the
Correct.
two?
Well, I mean, everything that's where I think our secret sauce lies, to be perfectly honest. And that is on the patient engagement side, because our app on our phone that is all on the client, that is client centered, that essentially is the new wave of what you would consider a patient portal
Mm,
because it's interactive. It's getting real time data out to the entity or the organization that is providing the service through our different interactive feature sets. And so, really validating the experience that they're having or the clinical session that they're having is extremely important for us, right? And that's a way that organizations are utilizing our tool not only to chart or document and
mhm.
bill, but to really engage, right? And to show validation that they are meeting with that person, they're engaged with them after treatment hours, after session hours, right? But that person then also takes some ownership and accountability of what's been recommended
Mhm.
to them as part of their plan. And really being able to see that growth is really how our application is beneficial.
So may I ask how many clients you have?
Yeah, in terms of customers, we're probably around roughly 20 to 25,
Okay. Still
somewhere in
small.
there.
Okay.
All Yeah, still small, always the range is The range is broad because we work with really large treatment centers, but then we work with with very small treatment centers, right? Some of the tribal organizations we work with, we're working with, the entire reservation,
Oh,
if
okay.
that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, their entire behavioral health department on the reservation as well as down in the urban areas. And so, yes, it's small in terms of customer size, but we're growing and but we're very intentional about how we go through the onboarding process, the implementation, because again, just adding one more tool doesn't always work,
Mm,
right?
mhm.
We want to make sure that it becomes part of the programmatic experience.
Definitely.
And so we're intentional about how we go about onboarding new customers.
Got it. Right. And I guess whatever tools that you decide to implement, you have to make sure that it really blends well with the foundational system that you have in place, right? Yeah.
Correct. Yes, that's the tough part about the space is they treatment facilities, medical facilities use the tool they've been using for a while, and we have to essentially come in and be another layer.
Mhm.
And so, whether it's through different API keys and integrations, we do that with some of our customers. Other customers just use our full suite of
Mhm.
tools. So it's all interconnected. So it really just kind of depends on the type of entity. But you're right. The one thing I don't want to do is create more work for the clinicians
Mhm.
and the people that are really doing life saving work because it just doesn't really help their experience, if that makes
No.
sense. So,
Completely does.
yeah.
Yes. So, last question. What advice
Yeah.
would you give to other leaders that are navigating similar challenges?
Man, I would keep going. And and your hard work doesn't go unnoticed. And the barriers and the walls and the things that you're doing and breaking down are helping people like me.
Mm,
And I like to think that I'm a part of that too, right? To some maybe some small degree. But as a founder, as a non-tech person, right? Really having a passion-filled mission and just an organization that's inspired to do the next right thing, to put people before the outcome. I mean, that stuff is so important. And the work that all of these other great organizations are doing, my advice is just keep going. And if you need help, give me a call, or if you need to vent, give me a call because I probably could use the help too, to be perfectly honest. Because
absolutely.
yeah, it's a tough dynamic, and it's always changing, right? And so just being able to adapt and overcome is something we talk about all the time, being resilient.
Mhm.
And I've watched a lot of founders and a lot of really great humans tell me the same thing, like just keep going. Just keep going. I know it's tough, but you're doing the right thing, and that's, at the end of the day, if I help one person, okay, then I've done a good thing, and I've done my job, and that's kind of how I view it.
Very impressive. Great discussion, and thank you so much for your insights. Best to you for 2026.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
Joe.
Appreciate your time.
Appreciate it.
All right. Bye
Bye.
bye.